nearly hour and a half. I sat down with President Donald J. Trump.
For an hour and a half? It's an hour interview. What did you cut out? What are you editing the Bible now? You Congress of Nicaea-ing the former 45?
For an exclusive face-to-face interview, we discussed an array of topics.
Like why there's no coffee table. How come there's no beverages next to you? Why would you sit there for so long in this awkward right across from each other thing? And why does he look like he's about to spit in your face?
The crisis in Afghanistan, to the crisis at our southern border, the flailing economy.
The flailing economy. Oh, wait. Flailing economy? Let me check something.
Been covering the market since 1975. I've seen crashes, I've seen rallies, but I've never seen a stock price surge like the one we're in right now. It is a real stunner. The night Donald Trump was elected in 2016, the Dow was at 18,000. In less than 5 years, it's almost doubled. That is a rally and a half. Trump cut taxes, got the ball rolling. COVID choked the economy, but
Biden brought it back.
Congress spent a couple of $1 trillion. The Fed
totally, didn't it?
a few trillion more. It was a wall of money that kept on coming and kept on boosting stocks. There's more.
Yeah, it's terrible. Just terrible flailing economy.
His COVID response versus a Joe Biden.
His COVID response, 500,000 dead versus not 500,000 dead.
And pretty much everything Trump versus what we are seeing today under this Biden regime. For the next
regime. Adorable.
hour and 10 minutes. I hope you'll stick with us.
Probably not. I mean, I'll probably jump around, actually. Especially when you're just talking. I don't know why I even put up with this.
Enjoy this face-to-face with 45. Mr. President, first of all, thank you so much for granting this interview.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Let's start with Afghanistan.
Yeah. You had a great plan.
And discuss what's happening today. We have heard that the humanitarian operations at the Kabul airport have pretty much ceased.
The humanitarian operations have pretty much ceased. What do you mean by humanitarian? Well, we'll find out, I suppose.
Your assessment overall of this debacle
It's pronounced Uber alles.
that has become the Afghan crisis under the Joe Biden presidency.
Well, they ceased because the United States has totally lost control. People are bombing.
We didn't lose control. We left.
They're sending rockets into them. They're killing a lot of people. 200 people 2 days ago, of which we had 13 Marines at least, because you have a lot of very badly wounded.
Jesus, other news organizations might blur out some of that stuff. No. This is pretty much the only way Newsmax viewers can get an erection, I suppose.
Marines and Navy right now. This is the greatest humiliation in the history of our country, in my opinion.
Not 500,000 Americans dead in a fully preventable pandemic that doesn't rank up, not even in the Bay of Pigs. You losing obviously, I'm glad it's taken a precedent over the big fraudulent election, right?
This is a psychological humiliation and a military
As opposed to a physical humiliation. What does that feel like?
humiliation. And when Biden said he's taking out the military before he takes out the people or the equipment, I said that can't be possible. I figured the press got it wrong because they get so much wrong. And they didn't get it wrong. He took out the military, lost total control. We had total control. In fact, in his speech, I'm sure they were thrilled when he said it, but he made a mistake probably. But it was
Probably.
not one soldier was killed for 18 months under me.
Well, yeah, because you made a surrender exit deal with the Taliban. Well, maybe he'll say that.
They understood that if they killed any of the American soldiers, any American, period, anybody gets killed, we go after them like I did many times. And I dealt with Abdul, who is now the leader. Officially, he was a leader then, too. So at least I was...
No, he was not officially the leader then, too. You made him the leader by springing him out of jail.
With the right guy. And I told him, you will be met as hard or harder than any country has ever been met with.
Ever been met with hardness?
before. And I said, you understand that? And he did understand.
He did? Because none of us know what the fuck you're talking about. They're going to be met with hardness? I mean, the dude's been in prison for a couple of years.
That. And I said, and it will start with your house. That's where it's starting. And it was fine. Nothing was happening. When I look at your red charts,
Yes, nothing was happening. We weren't leaving.
much was gathered and so much was taken in a...
Thank you guys for the hype train. Appreciate it on Twitch. And welcome everybody, by the way, if you're just joining us right now. Don't forget likes and subscribe, thumbs up, all that kind of stuff. I'll try to keep that to a minimum while we're doing this.
Period of time. Under my auspices, it was not at all taken. Now, I wanted to get out for years because we should have never been.
Under his auspices. Now, he wanted to get out for years because we should have never been in there. Well, why didn't you?
We could have hit him hard. Right. Should have never been there. But we were there. It was the biggest mistake, I say, in the history of our country. Trillions and trillions of dollars spent. Probably at least $2 trillion spent. No, we've never spent money like that. The longest war we've ever had. We didn't fight it like a war. We had a lot of woke generals, but we have great generals, too. We have great generals because I defeated ISIS very quickly with great generals. I could tell you who they are. But it's a shame.
Yeah, well, please do. Please tell us who they are, if you can remember their names. Dan, please interrupt him, because if he tries to pronounce their names, he might start smelling burnt toast and fall over.
Humiliations in our country's history.
That's what I want to know. What about the conditions you set? Because you had an agreement, you and I chatted before, with Abdul. And that agreement, when you laid out those terms you just talked about, where you...
Yeah, just any Abdul in the general area.
You mess up, you miss one benchmark of these conditions, you're done.
You miss one benchmark of these conditions, we're staying.
Why didn't the Biden administration follow exactly the conditions you had set up and hold their feet to the fire with this?
Because they're weak and they're stupid. It's very simple.
That's it.
I bombed them a lot during this agreement because they didn't...
Because you never intended to actually leave?
Meet a certain condition. Our biggest condition was that you never, ever touch any of our soldiers or any of our military, any civilians, number one. Number two, you never, ever even think about coming to our homeland. Those were the...
Yeah, but how do you know you've achieved that and leave? Sorry, but can we talk about that for 1 second? You never even... The other condition, he just asked him about the conditions in the deal. The condition is you never even think about coming to our homeland. So then we leave and you what? Start thinking about coming to our homeland? And then what? We go back in with troops on the ground? Honestly, how do you set a condition like that and then anyone meet it? So the idea is you set a condition like that so that you can stay forever.
His conditions, and they were verbal as well as otherwise, but he
verbal and otherwise. They used semaphore, they graffiti.
That you never saw problems with when I was president with them. There was no problem. They weren't taking over the country.
Well, we weren't leaving. We were staying. We could have stayed forever and maintained that status quo and continued to put people in danger. This is so fucking weird.
Very good. I said, we want to get out. I want to leave. I've been saying that for a long time. We're in there for 21 years. We're fighting it like police, not military. We were like police people. We were guarding traffic. Oh, come on over here. Come on over here. What are we doing?
Is that what our soldiers were doing? Directing traffic? Oh, come on over here. Come on over here. Fucking hell.
$1 trillion, millions of people count both sides, because I count both sides. People would say, oh, that's not very conservative. Well, I think it is. Millions and millions of people killed in the Middle East. Millions of people killed.
In the Middle East.
And you know what it is now? A bombed-out disaster, okay? Single worst decision made going into the Middle East in the history of our country.
Going into the Middle East, single worst decision. Just going into the Middle East, not Iraq and Afghanistan. Do you think he remembers which country we were fighting on? Or just, so he includes, I suppose, his Syria bombing and those kind of things. That, like, does he include in that, like, helping Israel? Holy shit.
The single greatest humiliation we've ever had was the withdrawal from Afghanistan. We could have had a beautiful withdrawal. We could have gone out with victory. We would have taken all the
By the way, Victory is a stripper. She works in Tampa, I think. We totally could have gone out with her. If we'd have just wrote the note and put it on her windshield like we were gonna, and we just never did.
civilians out, all the Americans out, take other people if we determine that they're worthy. We
If they're worthy, what do? Pick up Mjolnir?
so many people so quickly. A lot of those people that we took out are terrorists. They were hopping
Yeah, totally. We just took a bunch of people out. They were terrorists. They were just hopping in.
those planes because they're very smart, they're very sharp, and they know how to get onto a plane a lot better than a regular person that needs.
That's the one thing about ISIS. Those fuckers know how to get on a plane better than a regular person with your roll-on bag and your ticket.
So we have terrorists
For the record, a regular person might not try to cling to the wheel like they're Dave Chappelle in Con Air.
being delivered all over the world from Afghanistan. And you will see things happening over the years to come that is disgraceful. So we have this plan, strong conditions.
There was a bit of an edit there, I think, but maybe not.
They didn't meet a couple of them. We hit them very hard. There was no way, Dan, that they were ever in a million years going to do anything to us. So we were getting our civilians out.
So we were going to stay in for a million years. Okay.
We could take our time. If it took us 2 years or 1 year, there was no date that mattered. I said a May.
Yeah, there was no date that mattered. Holy shit. Listen to this garbage. Just for anybody who thinks that Trump had a magic plan to get out. Listen to this. There was no date that mattered if it took us 1, 2 years. Again, what did I say about the May 1st deadline? It was always bullshit. If he became president, if he got in a second term, he would have absolutely blown it off. Listen to this shit.
Date that mattered. I said a May 1st date, but there was no date. One of the reasons
Yeah, I said a May 1st date, but there was no date. I mean, what do you think? You make a deal with me, I keep it? What are you, out of your goddamn mind?
I wanted to have it longer because they weren't meeting all of the conditions. We hit them very hard. So we're going to take them out, take all of.
So, I see. So if they don't meet the conditions, we stay in. So as long as they don't meet the conditions, it's conditions based. We don't leave. I know. I was right, Jay and Benny. This is what I was saying. This May 1st was always bullshit. How? Right wing, listen to this asshole. Listen to your man, because he's telling you the truth.
$83 billion worth of equipment that now I'm sure, as we said, Russia, China is now taking it apart so they can make exactly the same stuff as we.
Yeah, totally. Like, what, night vision goggles and helicopters?
Is this incompetence or was this done on purpose? We have a lot of folks, that
I don't think it was done
the
on
network and they say, well, they look at the globalist and the way both parties have tried to, and the military complex get into wars, if you will, and they're like,
the military complex? You mean the military industrial complex? Or do you mean just like people who are in the military kind of have a complex? Like, I don't know. Do you ever feel like you look at your ribbons and you're like, am I an imposter? And then you realize, no, I actually served, unlike the president at the time.
his administration or the military complex do this on purpose or
Military industrial complex.
incompetent. You believe the latter.
I don't even think about it. I think it was gross incompetence.
That's true.
They may be trying to spin it the other way because it makes them sound better. You want to know the truth. I think it makes them sound better. What could be worse? They had no idea what they were doing. They took the military out first. I mean, it doesn't help them to do that. Might as well get the Americans out. Might as well get the equipment back. We gave them 83. Somebody said they're the 16th best. I think they're the best equipped man-for-man army in the world. Okay, man for man. Everyone.
It means per capita, I think. Man for man. No, they're not.
22 rifles.
Yeah. They now have the equipment of the top 20 nations.
Better equipment than us because it's more modern.
No.
They have more modern equipment than we do. And by
If I may, point of order, Mr. Chairman. If I could just let's see. Yes. Whoops, sorry. I'm in the wrong one. Just looking something. Just in case. And sorry, this is, you're probably going to think this is a long time ago. Oh, May 10th, 2021. We were already in the process. Bagram, hey, you've heard that name. The twisted remains of several all-terrain vehicles lean precariously inside Baba Mir's scrapyard. I showed you this stuff before about the guys complaining that they should have given them whole parts. Let's see. How about, let's see. Just from there you go. Hey, okay. By the way, if you want to know where the $83 million number comes from, that is all the gear and training provided to the Afghan security forces since 2001. This year alone, the U.S. military aid to Afghanistan forces was $3 billion. Aid to Afghanistan forces, not material, not planes and helicopters and MRAPs and any of that shit. $3 billion total. Training, guidance, stuff that we did, but we technically put it on the Afghan tab. Putting price tags on American equipment still in Afghanistan isn't an easy task. In the fog of war or withdrawal, Afghanistan has always been a black box with little sunshine, not helping with transparency. The Biden administration is now hiding key audits on Afghan military equipment. This week, our auditors at openthebooks.com, this is in Forbes. Let's see. Reposted 2 key reports, the U.S. war chest of military gear in Afghanistan that have disappeared from federal websites. One, the GAO audit of U.S. provided military gear from August 2017 was reposted. And then Inspector General for Afghan reconstruction, SIGAR, audit of $174 million in lost Scan Eagle drones. Lost, blown up, destroyed, whatever. U.S. taxpayers paid for those audits and used provided equipment and should be able to follow the money, unless it tells you what they've still got and is a security risk. Holy hell. After publication, the GAO spokesman responded to our request for comment. The State Department requested we temporarily remove and review reports on Afghanistan to protect recipients of U.S. assistance that may be identified through our reports and thus subject to retribution, in case they list in there who owns this stuff and where it's parked. But this is the charts you're seeing all over the place. Between 2003 and 2016, the U.S. purchased and provided 75,898 vehicles and 208 aircraft to the Afghan Army and security forces, according to a Government Accountability Office report. There they are. That's the chart. Here's a breakdown of the estimated vehicle costs. Here's what they cost. U.S. funded aircraft for the Afghan National. They had 110 Mi-17 and MD-530 helicopters. Transportation cargo planes, they had 60 of them. Light attack planes, 20. Intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance airplanes, they have 18 of those. Total 208. This month, the Taliban seized Black Hawk helicopters and an A-29 Super Tucano attack aircraft. As late as last month, the Afghan's Ministry of Defense posted photos on social media of 7 newly arrived helicopters from the U.S. Let's see if we can. Let's just check in on this little piece of it. Open link in new tab, shall we? The Hill. Billions in U.S. weaponry seized by the Taliban. This is the story. Hold on. Where? Billions of dollars in U.S. weapons are now in the hands of the Taliban following the quick collapse of the Afghan. Among the items seized are Black Hawk helicopters, the A-29 Super Tucano aircraft. Photos also circulated of Taliban fighters clutching U.S.-made M4 carbines, M16s. Right, we saw that. While it's virtually impossible to operate advanced aircraft without training, seizing the hardware gives the militants a propaganda boost and underscores the amount of wasted funds on U.S. military efforts in Afghanistan over the last 20 years. That propaganda boost. Now, that propaganda boost only works if you, say, have a network like, I don't know, Fox News or Newsmax blowing smoke up the Taliban's ass every time they're seen taking a picture with a piece of military gear they don't know how to operate or can't service. Clearly, this is an indictment of the U.S. security cooperation enterprise broadly. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it is. The United States spent an estimated $83 billion in training equipment in Afghanistan over the last 2 decades. So every time you hear this $83 billion nonsense, that's the gear for 20 fucking years. Anyways, back to the great faded one.
Hey, we should get it out. One of the things we should do right now, and I was the biggest one for getting out, we should either demand it back and demand it, or go get it, or at a minimum blow the hell out of it.
Right. Isn't that typically what we've done?
You might want to wait till everybody's out, especially if you're trying to negotiate with the last few remnant Americans who, for some reason, thought they could stay and were playing coy with the State Department, trying to get out, or got lost or separated. While you're trying to get them through and out of the country, maybe don't attack Taliban military forces, especially if they're attacking ISIS at the same time. Maybe hold off on that for a little while. It's not like they can hide the shit. We have tracking materials in all of it. And they barely know how to fly the shit. They certainly don't know how to get rid of that stuff.
You've pulled out of foreign nations, you destroy. If you can't take the equipment, you destroy it so that it doesn't fall into enemy hands.
I like the idea of taking it better because it's so valuable. It's so advanced. We paid for it. You know, I remember when General Milley, I said, we're taking all the equipment, every nail, every screw, every bolt. He looked at me and he goes, sir, it'll be cheaper to leave it. I said, maybe in your mind, but not in my mind. It is not cheaper to leave it.
It's actually cheaper to leave it. Yeah. Yeah, we don't need that shit. I mean, there's army surplus places with all that stuff in it. Believe me, the Chinese have figured out that if they send a tourist over to buy a Humvee, they'll figure out how the axle works.
Millions of dollars in army tanks. It's cheaper to leave it? Why? That's cheaper than putting it on a plane and taking it out?
Yes, and it also endangers soldiers every time you land on the ground, drive the fucking thing up into a plane, try to take that plane off for a piece of gear you have dozens of and you don't even use.
It's not. These people are misguided. They don't know what the hell. We have woke generals and we also have great generals. But the woke generals are the ones you see on television.
Is it just the woke ones?
Do you think...
Yeah, is it, and I don't know, I'm not up on my definition of woke, but does that include leaving gear behind? That's the woke thing to do?
Our military was preoccupied over the last 7 months of this administration with all the wokeness. We saw the videos come from the CIA, from the Navy, from the Army.
That were produced last year.
We saw Milley up there talking about that white nationalists and white rage is one of the biggest threats in the military, and we have to...
Well, yeah, they're dealing with that directly. I mean, they literally had a dude that they had to remove from duty.
Right now.
By the way, he never talked that way when I was there. He was there.
Because you didn't give a shit. You didn't ask. Nobody asked him. He didn't just bring... And the military guys don't just, apropos of nothing, start spouting off. You're the commander-in-chief. If you started asking him, hey, what's the problem with white nationalists? I guarantee he would have given you quite the diatribe.
A lot of generals, they've been there for years. Milley never talked that way.
Yeah, it's called a military career. They don't tend to, you don't go straight from private to general quickly. You know, there's a reason for that. I've heard. I mean, I don't know.
There, never once did I never heard him talk that way.
Whoops. Did I freeze or he froze? Okay, there you go.
The letters they send to the people in the Army, to the people in the Navy, talking about equality. I said, so let me ask you a question with equality. Strong letters in equality, and if you don't get equality, you report everybody. I said, so if a general, like General Patton, if a general walks up to a private and starts chewing them out like you've been watching for 200 years, right? Well, is that general in jeopardy? Like,
no. No, he's not. If he uses the N-word to do it, possibly.
All of the modern day stuff that we're talking about?
Even if he himself is black, I would just say. This like levels of behavior that are okay and that aren't. Just saying.
Well, you should talk to him with respect, sir. I said, okay, this is about...
It's not how you create soldiers, sir.
It's crazy. You know, I at my last rally in Alabama, we had 68,000 people in the rain.
Yeah, in the rain. Catching. I mean, that's a great place. If you're going to have a super spreader event, you want other environmental factors that'll make people even sicker.
It was raining. It was thunder.
It wasn't raining and thunder when you were there. It was, you if it was raining and thundering when you got there, you wouldn't have done it. It happened earlier.
We're saying, please don't come. We had to turn away 40,000 people at least. So we had 68,000 people. And I said, you know what? With all of this woke stuff that's happening, and you know, I canceled everything. It was happening from before me. And I canceled all of it. We got rid of people that were being paid $500,000 a year to teach cancel culture.
That's the first segment. $500,000. People paying $500,000 to teach cancel culture to the military. I'm gonna kind of call bullshit.